What's good, y'all? Welcome back. Ah, Tuesday. Terrific Tuesdays. Terrific Tuesdays. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Amazing, stupendous, outstanding, absolutely terrific. Shout out to all the sport. Our credit goes to them with the video. Top 10. 10. You see that, right? Or, yeah. Top 10. Top 10 Ferrari drivers of all time. Schumacher. Barrichello. I'm missing easy ones. I'm missing some easy names. I can't think. But you guys let me know who's you guys' greatest Ferrari driver of all time in the comments down below. Love to check that out for you guys. Engage into some conversations, into some debates, into some discussions. Let's check it out. As always, don't forget to start the video and sub as well. Very excited for this one. Should be a good one. 17 minutes. Get your popcorn ready. Sit down, get comfortable. Hope you guys have been good. Let's get started.
Ferrari is Formula One's most successful team, and by some margin. It has more wins, more drivers' titles, and more constructors' crowns than any other squad.
That's right.
Of course, that makes
legendary
a top 10 Ferrari F1 drivers particularly difficult.
Fangio, right?
We've given it a go.
Gentlemen, a short view back to the past.
For this list, we've assessed what the drivers did while they were at Ferrari, the impact of their time there, and the equipment they had at their disposal. And we haven't counted anything that they did at another team. So let's get on with it. Number 10, Alain Prost. Now,
whoa, Senna, duh. How I think about Senna? Whoa. Now, he could be right. He could be right. But let me listen. I'm not even a minute in. Let me listen.
Me out. I know Prost got sacked by Ferrari, but actually, let's take a look at his overall impact. They'd won just 6 races in their previous 4 years before his arrival, but he won 5 races in his first year there in 1990. One of those 5 wins was from 13th on the grid in the Mexican Grand Prix, which I reckon has got to count as Prost's greatest drive. It's no mean feat for someone who won 51 races across his career. Now, the agility of the Ferrari chassis allowed Prost to take on Ayrton Senna in the powerful McLaren Honda. We all know what happened. Prost went to the Suzuka penultimate round with a chance if he could beat Senna, and he beat him off the line, at which point Senna drove into him. That's an event for a different list and a different rant. But suffice to say, that cost Prost his title chance. In 1991 didn't go so well. Ferrari weren't.
I would still be pissed off to this day though. I know we've like discussed that a few times already, but like I'll be so sorry. My Apple Watch battery is on 10%, but I'll be so pissed off that like that's how I lose my ship. That's how I lose my championship. Oh brother.
As competitive, and in the end, Prost was sacked for the criticisms he made of the car. Probably worth pointing out, though, that he returned to win the World Championship in 1993 with Williams, and Ferrari had to wait nearly another decade before they got their first F1 title. So sacking Alain Prost, a little bit like Renault found, not sure it was a great idea. Number 9, Mike Hawthorn. Now, Hawthorn might have been lucky to win the 1958 world title ahead of Van Wall's Sterling Moss, but he did have a significant impact at Ferrari. Now, first of all, he won the 1953 French Grand Prix, which we've seen in the previous video, was an epic duel with one Manuel Fangio. He also took a rare victory over the Mercedes W196 in 1954 at the Spanish Grand Prix. So he had a couple of quite big wins under his belt before he left and then came back again for 1957. Ferrari's 801 was not one of its best, but the 246 Dino of 1958 was. The Van Walls of Moss and Tony Brooks were arguably the pace setters that year, but Hawthorn was incredibly consistent with his one victory, but many second places, and he pipped Moss to the title by 1 point after teammate Phil Hill moved aside at the Moroccan GP finale. The other reason that Hawthorn is on this list is that he persuaded Ferrari to put disc brakes on the car. Van Wall and various other British constructors had been using that for a few years, but Ferrari stuck to drums. But Hawthorn insisted on disc brakes being brought in during the 1958 season and enhanced Ferrari's competitiveness. Sadly, of course, he was killed in a road car accident shortly after the 1958 season, but his impact from Ferrari had already been made.
Mike Hawthorn.
Number 8, Kimi Räikkönen. Now, it's somewhat ironic that Räikkönen is on this list, given I think most people would agree that his best years were at McLaren when he didn't win the championship. But he did win the championship in his first year with Ferrari in 2007, when he also took 6 wins. Arguably, that was his peak at Ferrari. After that, Felipe Massa started to get on top of him, and we got just a glimpse of the old Raikkonen form after Massa's crash in 2009, after he had that spring in the face in Hungary. Raikkonen really seemed to step up, had several podium finishes, including a superb win in a mediocre car, really, at the Belgian Grand Prix. Despite that win, Raikkonen was paid off from his contract and released for 2010 and went off to do rallying and NASCAR and various other things. Before obviously coming back into F1 with Lotus. He rejoined Ferrari just as they went into the turbo hybrid era in 2014, when the car wasn't very good. He was comprehensively thrashed by Fernando Alonso, and it was a similar story really when Sebastian Vettel joined in 2015. Raikkonen was normally the number 2 to Vettel in their time together, though he did have quite a competitive 2018 season. That was probably his best Ferrari year towards the end of his very long and illustrious career, when he took 12 podiums and 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship. Also, of course, took that long awaited victory in the United States GP. But by then, it was already known that he would be replaced by Charles Leclerc for 2019. So it's probably fair to say that we didn't really see the best of Raikkonen at Ferrari, but ultimately he was a world champion there, and he makes it onto this list partly through to his longevity.
Yeah, I ain't telling you there was something in my mouth. Ugh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut that out. I'm gonna have to cut that out. That was nasty.
Must have kept him for some reason, and there's always been a suggestion that his experience helped with car development and setup. Number 7, Juan Manuel Fangio. Fangio was only at Ferrari for 1 season. He only started 7 races, and he didn't really get on with Enzo Ferrari. But he has to be on the list because he finished on the podium in 5 of his 7 races, won 3 of them, and of course was 1956 world champion.
Dang, can't really be mad about that. I mean, like I said, it was only 7 races he had for Ferrari, but I mean, my dude was winning. I mean, he was getting the job done. So it makes sense.
You also have to remember that prior to 1956, Ferrari was in the doldrums. Their cars hadn't been competitive, they'd been blown away by Mercedes, and frankly, the Lancia D50 was a better car as well. But several things happened to help them for 56. One was the withdrawal of Mercedes after the Le Mans accident. Another was inheriting the D50s from Lancia, who were in financial trouble. And the third was to get Fangio, who was widely regarded at that time to be the best driver in the world, particularly after the death of Alberto Ascari. Now, Fangio did win the season opening Argentinian Grand Prix, but thereafter suffered a little bit of unreliability and wasn't very happy. As number 1 drivers often do, he kicked up a bit of a fuss within the team, and things were corrected in time for him to win the British Grand Prix in slightly fortunate circumstances, and a dominant win in the German Grand Prix. Famously, of course, teammate Peter Collins handed his car over to Fangio at the Italian Grand Prix finale, and that was enough for Fangio to come home second and clinch another world title. Job done, he moved back to Maserati to win another title, while Ferrari didn't win a single race. Number 6, Gilles Villeneuve. So, he didn't win the championship there, but I think it's fair to say that Villeneuve embodies the romance and passion of Ferrari probably more than any other driver.
Rest in peace.
He started all his world championship races there, apart from his first one, which was for McLaren. Now, Villeneuve got himself a reputation as something of a wild man, particularly in his early days, involved in various clashes and moments and incidents, but actually he was becoming a refined driver by the time he was killed in practice for the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix. And in between those, he had actually performed some miracles in Ferrari machinery. He'd had some fantastic wins in 1979 and only just narrowly missed out on the world title, having supported Jody Scheckter, who narrowly missed out on this.
Jody!
The reason that Villeneuve was ahead really was 1980, when the car was terrible.
Oh my God! Ugh! Hey, ew! No, that's the worst F1 car I've ever seen. That is the worst F1 car I've ever seen. Oh my God. Ugh. Like who decided like this was nice? Now listen, they were probably like, listen, we just care about results, stuff like that. Now, I don't care if the car is a piece of crap and it looks like a piece of crap. If it gets the job done, it gets the job done. I get that. I get it. But my God. Ugh. 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 That's sick. Ugh. Ugh. Sorry, my bad.
Villeneuve,
it's just the car itself. The car design looks nasty.
Villeneuve then, of course, went on to take 2 Grand Prix wins in the pretty horrendous 126 CK. That car made my list of top 10 worst cars to win a Grand Prix, and Villeneuve managed to win in it twice, so fair play. Of course, 1982 didn't start as he'd hoped, but would he have won the World Championship alongside Didier Pironi in the much, much better C2 version of that car? We'll never know. But we do know that Villeneuve holds a special place in Ferrari fans' hearts, and rightly so. Number 5, Fernando Alonso.
Oh,
So it was nip and tuck. Who would
Nando.
be the top Ferrari driver who didn't win a World Championship there? But for me, Alonso's just a bit more of a complete driver than Gilles Villeneuve, even though perhaps he's arguably a little bit less fever. Now, Alonso joined in 2010 after both he and Ferrari separately had not great times this season before, and he put together a championship challenge which fell at the very last round. In fact, his time there was really an example of a driver maximising their equipment that wasn't really good enough. And that's why he's so high up on this list. I think more than any other driver in Ferrari's history who didn't win the championship, Alonso did the most that he could do. And the 2012 campaign, I believe, should be regarded as one of the finest in F1 history. 5 more points in 2010 and 4 more points in 2012, and we'd be talking about Alonso as a double Ferrari world champion. And I think it's unfortunate, perhaps,
Fine
that
margins.
he wasn't around for the
Fine
2017
margins.
and 2018 seasons when Ferrari produced a proper car. Now that brings me to another name I know from when I wrote the article of this.
You know what's crazy is that looking at like all these driver stuff like that, you can see like not just like the impact, but like the stats and all behind it. Like Alan Prost, like obviously he was last because like he was still good with Ferrari, but I think a lot of it was like I don't think a lot of people really. To me, it's like I think when people think of Alan Prost, they only think of him in terms of like his Ferrari days. I feel like I could be wrong though, but Fangio, obviously Ferrari, Fernando, Kimi, you know, obviously we got Seb coming up. That's interesting to me because I can't really disagree with the list because I'm still like, you know, I can't really disagree with the list because I think it's a very, very, very good list. I think probably the only one I have is probably Kimi above Fernando, just because Kimi has a championship with Ferrari, and yeah, but that's just me. You know, I'll count championship a bit over that, but the way he explains stuff like that, yeah, it makes sense why stuff like that. But you guys let me know. You guys let me know in the comments down below.
Top 10. My biggest criticism
My boy Seb
was that Sebastian Vettel
now,
isn't
whoa,
in it. So spoiler alert.
Whoa, Seb above Kimi and Fernando. Now, I know the car itself wasn't that great, and obviously, like, Seb and Ferrari were kind of, like, you know, having some issues. Shout out to, shout out to you guys telling me that, and also the Drive to Survive on Netflix, but that's interesting. Very, very interesting. That's very, very interesting. Keep going.
He's not in the top 4. The reason for that is that I think that Vettel was more than the other drivers on this list, Prost, Villeneuve, and Alonso, who didn't win the championship. He was really the architect of his own downfall. He made mistakes, particularly in 2018, in any sort of wheel-to-wheel situation with Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes. He tended to come off worse. So Vettel had some great moments at Ferrari, did win 14 times,
That's
which
good,
puts
though.
him 3rd on the list of all-time Ferrari winners. So it is a bit of a
my
problem
bad.
to pop him in. But for me,
My
he
bad.
contributed more to his failures at Ferrari than Alonso, Villeneuve or Prost. So that's why he's not in this. Apologies to all Vettel fans. Take
Oh,
a
he's
look at
not in the
Red Bull
list.
You might feel a bit better. Number 4, John Surtees.
Oh, he's 9 in the list. Wait. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I'm bugging. I am bugging. Wait. Chad, shut the hell up. Let's keep going.
Now we're really into
I'm
the big
bugging.
4 drivers, the drivers that really had a big
I'm
impact
bugging.
and significance at Ferrari. And remember, John Surtees joined, and he wasn't very experienced in 1963. Ferrari had experienced a staff exodus and a winless season in that campaign, but started the rebuilding process with Surtees, who had some experience with Italian mechanics and engineers after his time on motorbikes with MV Agusta. Surtees took his first victory for Ferrari at the 1963 German Grand Prix in a straight fight against Jim Clark's Lotus, a race that he would
Jim.
later pick as the race of his
Rest
life.
in peace, Jim.
And armed with Mauro Figueire's 158, Surtees became a championship contender in 1964. He went into the Mexico City finale with a chance for the title against Graham Hill, driving for BRM, and Lotus's Jim Clark. Now, Surtees had problems with a misfire, fluffing at that sort of high altitude, but the car cleared and he started to come through the field. When Clark's Lotus retired, that put Surtees up into 3rd place. It was right at the end of the race. Lorenzo Bandini, who'd also somewhat controversially removed Hill from proceedings earlier on, moved aside and let Surtees into second for him to clinch the World Championship. So it's quite a big turnaround for Ferrari in 2 years.
That's pretty
Now,
nice.
1965 was kind of hampered by unreliability, and Clark's Lotus was dominant. But in 1966, Ferrari probably should have won the Drivers' Championship again with Surtees, as they were better prepared than most for the new 3-litre regulations. Unfortunately, Surtees and team manager Eugenio Dragoni did not get along, and after a falling out at Le Mans, which Surtees always felt took up too much of Ferrari's time in the first half of the year anyway, Surtees stormed out via a trip to Maranello to speak to Enzo. Now, Surtees went on to finish second in the championship behind Jack Brabham, having driven the Cooper Maserati, which was not the greatest car of the season. And Ferrari missed out on both titles. So it didn't really provide the party any good. But Surtees' time at Ferrari has to be remembered as one of success. Perhaps not as much as it should have been, but successful nevertheless.
That's true, though.
Number 3, Alberto Ascari. Ascari sometimes forgotten because he was actually only around for the early part of the 1950s before being killed, but really he was considered on a par with Fangio. Each knew that the other was their main rival. And Ascari was key to the early days at Ferrari. He'd actually driven the Tipo 815, not even allowed to call it a Ferrari at that point in the 1940 Mille Miglia, and then he was part of Ferrari's F1 team in 1949 and started winning races. Alfa Romeo returned in 1950 with the dominant 158, 159, but it was clear that Ferrari was a coming force and Ascari was leading it. Really, he should have been the 1951 world champion, but Ferrari made a farcical decision about tyres. It's amazing how these parallels keep coming back in history.
That's crazy. I was just getting ready to say that. I was just getting ready to say that.
And completely ruined the season finale, allowing Fangio to win with Alfa Romeo. When the World Championship switched to Formula 2 regulations, however, the Ferrari 500 was the car to have, and Ascari utterly dominated. In fact, if you exclude the Indianapolis 500, which was included as part of the World Championship then, he won 9 consecutive World Championship races across 52 and 53, which is a record that stood, and it still stands, but it's been matched only once, and that was by Sebastian Vettel in 2013. A truly
I was going to say
run,
Max.
which actually was more than a year. Because
I was going to say Verstappen.
Now, Ascari wasted much of 1954 because he was waiting for Lancia's fantastic D50 to be ready to race. But he did have one more star cameo appearance for Ferrari in the pretty mediocre 625 at the Italian Grand Prix. Now, that season was pretty much dominated by Fangio and the Mercedes W196, but Ascari led Fangio and up-and-coming talent Sterling Moss in the Privateer 250F and might have won had the car not broken. So it really showed what Ferrari was missing.
Right.
Ascari surely would have been the main challenge to Mercedes in 1955 with the Lancia, and perhaps he would have been world champion when that car went back to Ferrari in 1956, but sadly was killed in a pretty needless sports car testing accident in a Ferrari at Monza in 1955. Number 2, Niki Lauda. So we're into the big two.
Whoa. How did I forget about Niki Lauda? One of the top Ferrari drivers of all time. How did I forget about him? Oh, man. How did I forget about Niki Lauda? I already know number 1 is probably going to be Schumacher. How did I forget?
Two now, the big Germanic forces that have come along and really turned Ferrari's fortunes around. Remember, Ferrari in 1973, another winless season, and they were in the doldrums. Now, Lauda at that point was sort of an up-and-coming driver.
That boy
very
dripped
quickly
out.
formed a strong
That boy
relationship
swag.
with Fiorghieri and Luca de Montezemolo. He was very
That's
brutally
the name.
honest about the Ferrari, which is frankly what they needed at the time.
That's
he was
his
the
name.
quickest driver of 1974, but the unreliability and the luck wasn't there. But in 1975, with the 312T, Lauda was the dominant force and strolled to the world title. The following year probably would and should have been the same had it not been for his German Grand Prix crash, a horrifying crash that he managed to come back from in a ludicrously short time of 6 weeks. He missed out on the title by 1 point even then, having effectively missed 3 races.
That's
But
crazy.
he bounced back to win the 1977 title. Now, his relationship with Ferrari was fraught. It had never the same again after the Nürburgring accident, partly because they'd very quickly tried to find a replacement for him, not believing that he'd come back. And the one they settled on was Carlos Reutemann, who was...
Wasn't Ferrari always like falling out with their drivers? Like, this is like the second, third time. Like, jeez, man.
Not a
Like,
friend of Lauda's, let's put it that way. So Lauda actually left Ferrari at the end of 1977. In fact, before the last couple of rounds were completed, once he'd won the championship, to
it's
go
crazy,
off
coach.
to Brabham. So a rocky relationship, perhaps, but he did win 2 drivers' titles there and had lifted Ferrari back to the front of Formula One. He also took 15 World Championship Grand Prix wins, which is more than any other driver in a Ferrari until we get to the number 1 driver on our list.
Schumacher.
Number 1, Ivan Capelli. No, I'm joking. It's Michael Schumacher of that.
I'm getting ready to say. I was getting ready to say. I'm bugging. He got me.
5 world titles, 72 wins with Ferrari, which is more than anyone's career apart from Lewis Hamilton now. So it had to be Schumacher at number 1. The combination of him, Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, Jean Todt really created one of the most dominant teams in F1 history. Now again, like some of the other drivers on this list, Schumacher joined when Ferrari wasn't really particularly strong. He was a double world champion at Benetton, and he really risked a lot to go to Ferrari for 1996. And their first car, the F310, was pretty hopeless, really. And the F310B was not much better. And actually, I think some of Schumacher's wins in those 2 years were arguably the best of his career, and some of the greatest weather cars then as well. We'd perhaps skate over Jerez at the end of 1997, which wasn't one of his finest moments, but basically Schumacher and Ferrari were a coming force throughout the mid and late 1990s. Now, they took the Constructors' Championship in 1999, but Schumacher couldn't fight for the driver's title because he'd broken his leg at Silverstone. But 2000 finally cracked it. 21 years after Jody Scheckter had taken Ferrari's previous driver's title, Schumacher beat Mika Hakkinen and McLaren to the crown. And it kind of opened the floodgates, really. The combination just got stronger and stronger and pulled further and further away. And the 2002 and 2004 seasons are still among the most dominant in F1 history. Probably fair to say that Rubens Barrichello deserves a bit of a mention here, as well as a strong backup for Schumacher.
Great backup teammate.
Occasionally have some odd moments, such as Barrichello moving aside at the Austrian Grand Prix, which was very unpopular. But in terms of force of success, this era has to be Ferrari's greatest. They were thrown off their stride in 2005 by various rule changes, but came back strongly in 2006, and Schumacher only narrowly missed out on yet another title thanks to Fernando Alonso at Renault. And he then retired, probably should have stayed retired. We won't talk about the Mercedes years here, they're not relevant. But as a period in F1 history, Schumacher at Ferrari will always be one of those great combinations. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe, and do take a
Can't forget about Schumacher. This was a very good video. Very good video. Hope you guys did much enjoy stuff like that. Hope you guys learned something new. I learned something new today. I learned that Ferrari likes to treat the drivers like crap at times. Well, a lot of fallouts happen, but I will say it seemed like a lot of drivers came in, like Schumacher. I think Ascari or somebody else came in when Ferrari was down and out, and brought them back up to where they are now. So brought them back up to to relevant stuff like that. So very nice, very amazing. Obviously, hope you guys did enjoy the video. Don't forget to like the video and sub as well. Stay safe, stay amazing. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.